All right, so just wanted to touch on a few highlights from today. So in comparing fractions, we want kids to just think about it, and not to say we never get a common denominator. Sometimes you have to, but we want them to kind of think first. And so in this case, this one is cut less, so it has larger pieces. Remember, the denominator is your unit. This one is cut more, so it has tinier pieces, because the more you cut something, right? Like if you only cut something in half, you have really big pieces, but the more you cut it, the tinier their pieces become. So the more you cut it, the smaller pieces, the less you cut it, bigger pieces. And in this case, it doesn't really help you that you have more pieces over here and less over here. That has nothing to do with it. You want to look between, and you're like, oh, wow, they're both missing one piece. So for a moment in time, we're going to focus on what they're missing. This is missing a larger piece. I'm going to, again, over-exaggerate here. And this one is missing a smaller piece. And again, this is not to scale. I just kind of want to exaggerate. So then if you focus on what they have, because again, we're focusing on what they have, the 24 pieces they have and the 23 pieces they have, then you can say, oh, wow, missing one tiny piece leaves a lot of pizza left. And so this one is greater than. If that doesn't quite resonate a little bit, let's exaggerate it a little bit, or a lot of it maybe. So say I'm comparing these two fractions. All right. Again, this one is cut into a bunch of tiny, 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 tiny pieces. And so it is only missing a very little sliver. But you have the 99, so you're focusing on what you have, which is all of pretty much everything except that just that tiny, tiny sliver that's missing. This one, and again, there's the missing piece. I don't know if you can see it. Let me highlight it. That little tiny sliver right there is what's missing. All right, and then 3/4, again, it's only cut into 4 pieces, so they're giant pieces. And you're missing one again. In both of these cases, you're missing one. But this time you're missing, a pretty substantial amount. But when you answer the question, you focus on what you have. And you definitely have more pizza here. I know you guys are familiar with grades. So if you think of grades, if you have 100 questions on the test and you miss one that's worth 1 point, everything's worth a point. You just missed 1 point out of 100. You just got a 99% because you focus on what you got right. Here, if a test only had 4 questions and you missed one, you missed 1/4 of the test. You got a 75%. So obviously this grade's way better. So missing a tiny sliver is way better than missing a big piece. And that's kind of the idea there. All right, the next one, let's see. Benchmark fractions. It doesn't look like a half. If everyone, okay, half of 60 would be 30, but 15 out of 60 would be 1/4. Because if I know 30 out of 60 is a half of that would be 15 out of 60. So that's 1/4. So if I look at it, this guy's a little bit less than 1/4. Now, 1/4 of 48 is 12. If I divide 48 by 4, I get 12. So 12 48ths would be 1/4. And so this guy is just a little bit more than 1/4. So obviously, if you're a little bit more than 1/4, you're bigger than something that is a little bit smaller than 1/4. All right, and then these have a common numerator. So again, now we can just focus on what we have. We're not focusing on what's missing for like a moment in time and then going back to focusing on what we have. We're literally just focusing on what we have. Here, it's cut more, so these are smaller slices. This is cut less, so these are bigger slices. And again, I'm not focusing on what's missing, that they're both missing one. They both have 7 slices, so I know they have the same amount of slices. So I have 7 smaller slices, I have 7 bigger slices. Obviously, having 7 bigger slices would be more. Okay, the other thing we talked about is fractions and percents. So on a problem like this, to get the fraction, you have to cut it into equal pieces. So I'm going to kind of cut it there. And so you can see I have 8 equal pieces. So I have 1, 2 shaded out of 8. And I can scale that down, divide by 2, and get 1/4, okay? The other way you could do that is maybe move that over there and realize like, oh, that would shade in 1/4 of it because you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 little slices going this direction. So you could do it that way as well. To get a percent, what you might do is, since it's cut into fours, you know that 100% divided by 4, that each of these little strips is going to be worth 25%. So again, by moving that over there, you could be like, well, then that one strip is full, and so I know that's 25%. Again, a lot of you probably know 1/4 is like 25 cents or 25%, but you could also scale it up by 25 and 25 and get it that way. The other thing is, if you realize this is an eighth and an eighth, if you know 1/4 is 25%, you would know that an eighth is 12.5% over here, and another eighth is 12.5% over here, and then you could add those and get 25%. All right, now, doing percents of this, we're going to do these two ways. One is with a drawing. So if you did a strip diagram, a lot of times we cut them into tens to get 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, or fifths to get 20%, 20%, 20%, and so forth. So if I cut this into fours, I know that each strip is worth 25% because 100% divided by 4 is 25%. So then if I divide this by 4, I know that each strip is worth 20. And so if I want 25% of this, I would just have one strip. If I wanted 75% of it, of 80, then I would know that I would need 3 strips, which would be an answer of 60. Okay. The other way you could do that is cut it into 10 pieces. We'll see how good I am at doing that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cuts to get 10 pieces. And so each of these would be 10% because 100% divided by 10, each strip is 10%. And so 80 divided by 10, each little strip would be worth 8. All right, and then if I want 25%, I'd have to do 2 10%, and then I would have to do a 5%. So I'd have to do a half. So I would need a 10%, a 10%, and then just half of that guy, which half of this, half of 8 is 4. So then I know 8 plus 8 is 16 plus 4. I'm still going to get the same answer I did of 20. All right, and then again, if I wanted to do the 75%, I would do, let's see, 10, 10. I do another 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. How many do I have there? So I do 10%, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%, and then again the half. And then if I do that math, all right, I should have, let's see, 8 times what, 756 plus the 4 would give me the 60 for the 75%. The other thing is called a ratio table or a percent table. And that's when I say that 100% is all of the 80. And then I'm trying to get to 25%. So I could divide by this side by 4 and divide this side by 4 and get 25% is 20. The other thing I could do is I could take my 100% and my 80 and I could divide by 10 on both sides. And I could get 10% is 8. And then I could do 2 of those because 10% twice is another 8. And then I could do 5%, which is half of 8. So if I divide this by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, I get 4. And then I could combine all of those to get my 20. All right. And then to get my 75%, I could do my 25% and then maybe scale it up by 3. So 75% multiply this side by 3. I'd have to multiply that by 3. So that'd be 60. So this is a strip diagram. This is like a ratio table or a percent table. Same thing here. 14% doesn't play really nice with this, but we could do it. But let's do a percent table. So if I say 100% is my 20, then if I divide by 10, so I'm going to divide by 10, and I can just move the decimal, divide by 10, I get 2. And then I need 1%, so 1% would be divide by 10 again, so I'm going to divide by 10 again, which would be, what, 0.2. And then I need to build up to 14%, so I need times 4 and times 4. So 4% is correlating to 20 cents times that is, what, 80 cents? And so to get 14%, I'd combine my 10% and my 14. So what is that? $2.80 or 2.8. If you don't like that, the other thing you could do is get 5%. So 5% would be half of that would be $1, and then you could subtract that. So I could, I'm running out of space here, but so if I jump from 10%, I could do 5% is half of 2, which is 1. And then I could subtract the 1%, which 1% was what? 0.2. And I get that my 4%, oh boy, I'm cutting it here, is 80 cents. Because if I take my 5% minus my 1%, that leaves you with 4%. And notice that's the same thing I got over here. So I could do that. If you made a strip diagram on this, you almost, I don't know, that would be hard. I mean, you could do 10%, but then 4 doesn't play super nicely with that. We could make it work, but this probably works a little bit easier. All right, that's just kind of a recap. I hope that helps.